Welcome to Spirited Conversations. I'm Jess Dane, and in this series, I'll be talking to some of the hard workers behind the scenes in the supercars pit lane to find out what it takes to operate at the top of one of the world's premier touring car categories. All thanks to Spirit Super. Jeromy Moore is the tech guru at Red Bull Ampol Racing. He started at 888 Race Engineering back when it started here in 2003 and progressed from data engineer through to chief designer and Craig Lowndes race engineer. And in this chat, we cover life in two very different but equally high-performing pit lanes and his work on the Gen 3 development. Jeromy Moore, you are part of the 888 Race Engineering furniture. Set the scene for us and describe what 888 is like as a team.
As a team, we're a small knit group of people, of mainly engineering staff, which focus on optimising performance of the car. We work together really closely. We have to get along really well. It's like a small little family. Yeah, as you said, I'm a bit of a part of the furniture, so I've seen people grow up inside the team and develop, so it's an enjoyable group to work with.
888 is seen as a high performance operation. What sets it apart as that?
I think our passion to perform. We're always challenging ourselves and wanting to better ourselves. Even if we have a good result, we're always thinking how we could have done that better. So it's always just challenging to improve our performance in every aspect.
And drawing upon those things, how do you think that 888 has been able to sustain that high performance over such a long period of time? It's one thing to have success on one weekend, one season, a couple of seasons strung together, but success over the course of 20 years is something that isn't often seen in motorsport. So how has that been sustained?
Yeah, that's a difficult challenge for every team, every major team that has performance. Initially, it's just, I think it is just our passion. We always drive ourselves to improve. We've had competitors come and go, and that's always like a renewed challenge. We saw Penske come in, of course, lately. That's a renewed challenge to keep pushing ourselves with new benchmarks, new competitors. And there's always something different to look forward to with a small team that we have. We're always designing or race engineering, or there's always different aspects to challenging yourself. It's never monotonous. It's never the same role you're doing. There's always something to learn. We're always learning every day, even though we've been here in racing for so long. We're always learning, and that's our passion, and that's how we keep improving and keep driving ourselves on.
How do you ensure that people keep learning?
Well, people work differently. We try to keep stimulating what their enjoyments are or what their interests are. Each person's different, so yeah, it's really just allowing opportunities for people to develop into their full potential.
And how important is that learning to innovation? Because that's of course what motorsport is all about. It's about pushing the boundaries within the regulations that we have. So when it comes to innovation, how do you keep people inspired to keep pushing those boundaries?
It's always just searching for the latest trends, what's happening overseas, what's the cutting edge of engineering, and that inspires people to work new technology, new fields. It's just about trying to incorporate that down, as I said, into our smaller scale that we operate on. But it's just trying to pick and choose all the new innovative sciences or techniques and bring them down to Australia.
You mentioned overseas. People who will be familiar with your background will know that you had been in Australia for all of your life until you ventured overseas and worked with Porsche on their World Endurance program primarily. How important is it to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and what motivated you to do that?
I think it's critical to challenge yourself as a person. If you don't push your boundaries, you just sort of stagnate and don't improve. Yeah, it was definitely a big challenge. I think it's something that everyone should do, not necessarily go to another country, but always just pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. If you're doing something the same every day, just do something a little bit different next day or the day after. Just try to keep improving or increasing your knowledge base. If you don't know what you can't do, you don't know what you can do. It's just, it's always good to always see how far you can go.
And people are so important, of course. Who were some of the biggest influences on you while you were over there, and what were some of the lessons that they taught you?
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward to say Mark Webber was a big influence. He has background from Formula One. He's seen a lot of how upper echelon motorsport works over there. and he's very keen to take Australians under his wing and sort of push them along. So he was a good influence there. Of course, guys have come from Formula One and now still in Formula One. Zeidel, so he's now in McLaren. He was my boss back when I was over there. He was a great boss. There's a lot of names I could mention that in each department that I picked off little bits and pieces and learned from them.
You mentioned Mark Webber helping Australians overseas. Why do you think Australians are so highly regarded in other motorsport categories around the world? Because we've seen an awful lot of Australians in all areas, not just driving, but engineering and mechanical, be successful overseas. So what is it that has made Australia such a great breeding ground for motorsport professionals?
Yeah, I think Australians and our friends over in New Zealand, I think they're always oversubscribed in motorsport in Europe because of the resourcefulness of our two nations. We don't have all the resources. We don't specialise early in our careers, whereas in Europe, you're an aerodynamics engineer, you're a composite engineer, straight out of university, you go and do this and you've got tunnel vision and you're the best at that, but you don't know what's going on over here or here. Whereas in Australia, especially supercars being one of the prime examples, you have to know a bit of everything. You have to know what's happening on the whole car. So that's why you see a lot of Australians and New Zealanders up in the upper levels of motorsport in Europe and also the US, because we've got a bit of a handling of understanding of what's going on in the whole car and managing all these different departments. And also, of course, we know after not having much resources here, or how to make something work with maybe not the ideal solutions or ideal parts. And that's motorsport. You have to know what to do in a short frame of time to react and adapt the best method to improve the performance of the car or some sort of problem that arises that you need to solve. So I think that's why we're so strong and so oversubscribed in motorsport worldwide.
Would you say that resourcefulness sets Australia apart and makes supercars a high performance category in comparison to other championships around the world?
Absolutely. Supercars isn't the biggest budget motorsport series in the world, but we definitely perform well above our resources. We're always trying to maximise what we have and produce a really good show. Not only, of course, the cars, trying to make them as fast as possible, but everyone in the category itself trying to put on a really good show and keep improving and keep optimising performance, whether it's on track or off track behind the camera.
Comparing 888 and Porsche, where you've spent the majority of your working life, are there any recurring patterns or themes between the two that make them both high-performance organisations?
Absolutely. I think it's, especially in terms of 888, the motto, assume nothing. It's about making sure that your analysis is correct. Fundamentally, you're trying to improve a physical system, whether it's a Fiat Supercar or an LMP1 car. It's understanding how it's working, understanding the principles behind it, and not assuming that something which appears the way it is the way it is. So I think that probably sums it up.
888 and Porsche are both visionary organisations as well. That's part of being high performance. How do you get everyone in the team on board on that same bandwagon of progressive engineering?
You have to start with the first step of having people which want to push themselves and want to progress and want to learn and expand their horizon. So that's the first step. And then after that is just stimulating them with new resources, new material, new techniques, just to develop their passion and they then can drive themselves. The best company isn't someone which is holding the whip over them and pushing them to go, yeah, you do this. It's giving them the tools and letting them run with it and developing to full potential that they have.
A big part of the future vision for supercars as a championship is Gen 3, which of course you have been instrumental in the development of, and we will see hitting the track hopefully next year. So tell us about your involvement with that project.
So yeah, Gen 3 started, for us we were first just going to help out along with the rest of all the other teams and doing a small part on the car. COVID came and yeah, I think everyone was just in survival mode. 888 put their hand up and said, now let's keep this going. We need this to happen in 2022. We need this to keep being designed and keep being developed. Otherwise, we're in potential of not having careers in the future. So basically from March, April, we got our heads down and worked on this totally new car, completely different car from what we've had in all of supercars history, the biggest change throughout our career, including all the project blueprint, car of the future, So it's been really an interesting challenge to design something effectively from ground up with all the constraints that you have on trying to reduce the cost. Yeah, for sure, we're trying to make the cars cheaper, but that doesn't mean they can't be interesting to work on. The challenge is making something engineeringly cool, but with the smallest resources possible.
What's been the effect of that massive change in the way we're approaching building a car? Is it revitalizing? Is it intimidating? How do you keep people on that bandwagon?
Yeah, it is a challenge because, I think you just look at almost a clean sheet of paper and say, guys, how do we make this the best possible car we can? And having everyone come up with different ideas and working together, not just Triple Eight, but of the supercar fraternity as a whole, putting our heads together and figuring out how to make the best mousetrap.
What do you see as the future of Australian motorsport?
I still see there's, definitely supercars. That's a really strong category that should be going for a long time. People still love fast, loud, big touring cars which bash into each other, or supercars. But I think there still is a room for open wheelers. We haven't really been too involved with the open wheel or categories down here, but I think Australia as a motorsport country needs to have a progression from the lower level karts up through supercars and the top level in Australia. So supercars will certainly be around hopefully past my lifetime. The main thing is to make interesting racing and fans can turn up and watch it.
Do you have an idea of what you want your long-term impact upon the sport to be?
I haven't really thought about that, to be honest. I just like being part of the supercars group as a whole and producing good racing, winning races, of course. I like that side of things as well, understandably. But yeah, I'd like to say I could be remembered as someone that was key to developing this whole new regulations and car that runs for a fair while.
Well, JJ, it has been fascinating getting your insights into what it takes to run a progressive and high-performance motorsport team. Thank you very much.
Thank you.